Hey guys, it's Sung here and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to explain why you should stop obsessing over the 4% rule to figure out how much you need to save to retire early in your 20s, your 30s, or 40s. Why? Because the 4% rule may fail you if you think realistically about how life actually works. Instead, you should prioritize passive income diversification if you really want to secure your financial independence. I'm going to explain all of this coming right up, so stick around. Before I get started, if you're at all interested in early financial independence and escaping the rat race as soon as possible so you can focus on what truly matters, hit that like button down below and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on any new videos to help you grow your wealth and achieve early financial independence. If you clicked on this video, chances are pretty high that you obviously know what the 4% rule is. But real quick, if you need a refresher, the 4% rule, or also known as the safe withdrawal rate, is a rule of thumb that was first introduced in 1994 by a financial planner by the name of William Bengen. You might also hear people like Mr. Money Mustache refer to something called the Trinity study, which was a separate research, but it basically came to the same conclusion. In a nutshell, financial planners generally believe that if you have a large enough nest egg where you can live off just withdrawing 4% of it every year, then you are unlikely to run out of money in your lifetime, and so you are financially independent. Or, as Mr. Money Mustache puts it this way, the safe withdrawal rate is the maximum rate at which you can spend your retirement savings such that you don't run out in your lifetime. And by the way, the 4% rule is the same thing as when people talk about saving at least 25 times your annual spending. It's just a different way of looking at the math. So I'm not going to get into a lot of details in this video about how the experts arrived at 4%. But basically, they used a lot of financial market data going from 1926 to 2009 and all the ups and downs over some 80-year history of the market. And they came to the conclusion that if someone were to withdraw only 4% of it every year, that the chances of running out of money is highly unlikely. But therein lies the problem. When academians and mad geniuses try to boil down some very complex life decisions for the average person using these broad statistics and fancy math, it's usually completely disconnected from real life. Like, imagine me proposing that I know what you're gonna eat for lunch for the next 30 years of your life because I read a US history book. Okay, maybe that was a really bad analogy. But I'm trying to drive home the point that there's many things in life that just don't go according to plan. Now, I'm all for the 4% rule for your withdrawal strategy. Pairing that with a low-cost index fund like Vanguard's VTSAX is a no-brainer for sure. But what I'm trying to say is that don't make it the only source of income when you make the leap to early retirement. If it is your only source of income, then you're putting yourself in a very dangerous financial situation because you basically trapped yourself into a fixed income. Being on a fixed income is fine if you're retiring in your 60s or 70s and you have another 10, 20 years to live. But it's going to be a nightmare if you're talking about retiring early in your 20s or 30s and you have another 40, 50, 60 years to live. Reason being is that you still have a lot of big life expenses that could potentially destroy your finances because you can't predict how much these will cost. I mean, think about it. What happens if you get into a serious car accident? Or what happens if you get cancer? Or how about the cost of being disabled? And speaking of health expenses, what happens if you decide to start a family and then you start having kids? Now the chances of you having to pay a big medical expense just multiplies. The thing is, we all have family members in our lives who we might need to care for at some point. For instance, if your mom or dad lose their jobs and they don't have income, are they going to depend on you for financial support, and can you provide for them? Or what happens if you have a family member who's in hospice care? Who's going to provide for that? Or if you have a mental illness in the family, then who's going to provide for that as well? And if you're single, don't forget that getting married can cost a lot of money. And if your future spouse already has children, then you will also need to think about providing for them as well. Or if you're already married, you might also go through a divorce potentially, and you will need to pay child support. And also, underlying all this, don't forget that your kids might need to go through college education, and somebody needs to pay for that as well. I'm not suggesting these hypotheticals to somehow scare you out of early retirement with the 4% rule. That's absolutely not the case. But what I want you to take away is the fact that these situations, they're not that uncommon. And they all have major financial consequences and costs, and you cannot possibly anticipate those. So it's really, really risky for you to think that the 4% rule is going to be able to cover you for all the things that will happen in your life over several decades. And if I still haven't persuaded you, maybe Mike Tyson can do a better job. Everyone has a plan, till they get punched in the mouth. Well, you could say one FIRE movement blogger got punched in the mouth. If you haven't heard of Sam Dogan, he's the guy who runs the really popular financial blog called The Financial Samurai. He recently wrote a piece on MarketWatch.com stating in the opening paragraph, "The FIRE movement naysayers are right. Retiring early is nearly impossible if you have kids. Don't be fooled by the people without kids telling you how you too can retire in your 30s and 40s and live a life full of leisure." He then goes on to say something that else which I thought was really interesting. Even for those who claim to have retired early with kids, chances are high one or both parents are making side hustle money out of necessity, one spouse is working a full-time job, or the couple has had to drastically reduce their lifestyle to the bare bones. And this gets to the core of what I'm trying to get across, in that whichever FIRE movement blogger or YouTuber you follow, they often talk about their investment portfolio and their net worth goal to be financially free with the sole purpose of getting to that 4% withdrawal rule. But you have to realize that their side hustles like their blog or their YouTube channel or their book deals or their sponsorships generate additional passive income, and sometimes it's quite a lot. So the bottom line is they don't plan on retiring or don't have to rely on their investment portfolio alone for financial independence. And you shouldn't either. The smarter thing to do is to diversify your passive income sources beyond the stock market. And the two most popular opportunities, in my opinion, are rental property investing and an online business, which I'll explain in a bit. So by diversifying your passive income sources across stocks, rental properties, and a passive online business, you get two benefits that are absolute gold. First, you obviously have much greater financial security when you quit the rat race because you're no longer dependent on a single source of income. And second, you don't have to work as long because you no longer need a big pot of money to provide you with your sole passive income source. To drive home the latter point, let me share a simple example of two people. We'll just call them Jack and Jill.
Jack and Jill, they both have the same goal. They both need $3,000 per month in passive income to be financially independent. So the objective here is to figure out how they can get to this goal, assuming everything is equal. They earn the same salary, they're the same age, they get the same promotions. Everything is just, we're assuming it's equal. The only thing that's different is that Jack and Jill have different strategies for getting to that $3,000. So let's talk about Jack here first. So his strategy is primarily exclusively focused on index funds. So he's gonna shove all his extra savings capital into index funds. Whereas for Jill, her strategy is more diversified. We're talking, she's gonna put money into index funds, she's going to buy rental properties, and she is working on her YouTube channel. Let's just assume that Jill is, she loves woodworking. You know, if you give her a tree and an axe, she'll carve you a chess set. She loves working with wood, and she has a YouTube channel running where she talks about everything she does with woodworking and all the tools and how to do different things. So Jack needs $3,000 per month from index funds. So we're going to take the 4% annual withdrawal rate from his investment assets. $3,000 times 12 means he needs $36,000 per year. $36,000 per year times 25, which is again a different way of looking at the 4% rule, means he needs $900,000 in assets to generate his passive income needs. Now, Jill's strategy is a little bit different, right? She's looking for $3,000 per month with index funds, rental properties, and YouTubing. So we're going to just make this really simple, just for illustration purposes. Let's just assume she needs $1,000 from index funds, $1,000 from rental properties, and $1,000 from YouTube. In terms of getting $1,000 from index funds, again, this is pretty much following what Jack was doing. Jill's going to take the 4% annual withdrawal rate from her investment assets, and so that means $1,000 times 12, annualizing it to $12,000 per year. If she wants to get $12,000 per year from her investments through index funds, that means we multiply that by 25 to get $300,000 in assets she needs so that she can meet that 4% withdrawal rule. Now for Jill to get $1,000 per month with rental properties, we're going to assume here that she has 4 rental properties that each cash flow $250 per month after all expenses. So this includes covering her mortgage or taxes or insurance, any types of repair reserves, maintenance reserves, or capital expenditures such as replacing a roof or having to replace her HVAC. We're also talking that she's going to set aside some money for vacancy reserves, and then she's also setting aside some money for property management fees. We're also assuming here that it's going to cost her $50,000 to purchase each of these 4 homes. So that's including down payment and closing costs, so which comes out to about $200,000 in assets. Now, if you ask any real estate investor, this is probably not that unreasonable here to get $250 in cash flow with just a $50,000 purchase cost. So we're talking maybe like a starter home in the Midwest, or a small home that is going to allow her to put down a 20% down payment. She would then be able to cash flow a couple $100s from that home based off of her purchase. Finally, we're talking about Jill's YouTube channel and trying to produce $1,000 per month from that passive income source. So there's multiple ways she can do this. She can get YouTube ad revenue, which is pretty standard if you have a decent sized channel. She can also do affiliate marketing revenue, where she can get money from different types of equipment, tools, or services that she can earn some commission off of through her channel, through product reviews, through different types of promotions that she can do, or just even affiliated links to Amazon or something like that on her channel. And that's another pretty standard way for a lot of YouTubers as well as bloggers and just online content promoters to be able to make additional income. And finally, she can also do sponsorship revenue, where she can have videos that are sponsored by different products, different companies. That's just another way for her to generate additional income to get to her $1,000 per month. And this all involves no assets. There's no cost for her to do this other than maybe a computer, just a simple camera. This is not going to cost her a lot of capital in any way to have this channel up and running. And in the middle of all this, she loves doing this, and she is very passionate about woodworking. She loves taking the time to do this. So to summarize, Jack and Jill, in order for them to both meet the goal of $3,000 per month in passive income, Jack, how much savings does he need? Well, it's going to be $900,000. And that's all going to be coming from his index fund. In terms of Jill, her savings requires her to have only $500,000, $300,000 coming from index funds, $200,000 being invested into rental properties, and YouTube doesn't cost her any capital. And so right here off the bat, you can see that Jill is able to generate the passive income she needs to get to $3,000 per month with almost half as less capital as Jack, which means she can work less. She can probably save up that money faster because it's just a lot less money compared to Jack. Now, I want to briefly touch here on how Jill has greater financial security than Jack. And let's just talk about a problem here. Let's say they both get into a car accident and it's going to cost them $6,000 for their auto repairs and just everything else that is associated with this accident. So for Jack, the only income option he has to cover this huge expense that came out of nowhere is to increase his withdrawal rate from his index fund investments. Now, that's probably not ideal because then that's gonna probably cut into his capital, not just the interest that he's getting, not just the dividends, but even the principal amount that he has invested. Whereas on the other hand, and the thing is, Jack doesn't really have any other options. I mean, he can't exactly. I mean, he could try to decrease his expenses for a couple of months and try to save up more, but in terms of on the income side, there isn't that much he can do other than just pull more money from his investments, which is not ideal. Jill, on the other hand, has several options here. She can increase her withdrawal rates just like Jack and just take out some extra money from her investments to cover some of this expense. She can also take out a home equity line of credit. That's a potential option for her with her 4 investments. There's going to have some equity in there since she owns these properties and she has money invested in, and she's been paying down the principal. That's something that she could tap in the immediate term to help cover for this $6,000 expense. Now, there's another thing she could do is obviously with her YouTube channel, she can try to get more sponsored videos and generate some additional income and really focus on increasing her income through her YouTube side hustle. And so this is a really simplified example, but I'm trying to get to the point that Jill has more flexibility, she's not just stuck with reducing her expenses or having to take out more money from her investment portfolio, but she has other options for her because her passive income sources are diversified.
As I said before, this was a very simple example, but the point I'm trying to make is that income diversification can get you financial independence much faster because it takes less money. Obviously, the trade-off is that with rental properties and a passive online business, they take some work to set up and to maintain. And if doing any sort of work is not what you envisioned in early retirement, just imagine what you would do with all that free time you will have. When you have no job to go to, no responsibilities, no one to tell you what to do. Is your plan to watch TV all day? Or maybe you plan on working out all the time? Or maybe you just want to sit on the beach and just drink cocktails for the rest of your life? Or maybe you just plan on traveling and you want to just visit every country once, twice, 3 times, I don't know. Instead of spending all your time in leisure, I'm pretty sure you'll find a hobby or an activity that you absolutely love when money is no longer a motivator. I'm pretty sure you'll find it enjoyable and meaningful. And more often than not, there's going to be a way to make money off of it, off of whatever you do that you love. And I think you should just take advantage of that. For example, if you love to cook, start a YouTube channel or a blog and share your passion with the internet. If you love to hike, you can share your adventures on Instagram or Facebook and tell people what your equipments are and what you're using to go hiking. There's so many opportunities these days to do what you love and at the same time somehow make a decent side income online. If you're just getting started investing and you want to know what are the best funds to invest your money in to grow your wealth, be sure to check out this video right here where it will point you in the right direction. Also, I have some additional videos on investing for early financial independence down below in the description, so be sure to check those out. And while you're down there, be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed this video and share with a friend if you think it will help them in any way. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss on more videos to help you grow your wealth and achieve early financial independence. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.